So let's talk about maintenance requirements on the Tesla, specifically the Tesla Model 3. This is a 2024, and I believe it's the same for a Model Y. There's been a few questions on the channel about that, and of course, one of the best things about owning a Tesla is how much money you save, because you don't have to do tons of maintenance. Now, maintenance, there is some required, but it's pretty few and far between. Let's run through, and this is directly from Tesla's own website. So it says here, Tesla recommends the following maintenance items and intervals as applicable to your vehicle to ensure continued reliability and efficiency. Of course, for more information, you can go directly to Tesla. Brake fluid. Check every 4 years, replace if necessary. Now, one of the great things about the Tesla is the single pedal driving. If you get that down, you're not going to use your brakes hardly at all, which means you don't have to replace brake pads or brakes altogether. However, that does mean that the fluid is just going to kind of be sitting there, right? And that's probably why Tesla recommends that you do something with it every 4 years. Next up, the cabin air filter. It says here to replace the air filter every 2 years. There's a little caveat though. If you happen to be watching from China, must be because of smog and pollution, I guess, you're supposed to do this every year. Now, in the Tesla, and this is a do-it-yourself maintenance item, by the way, although a little bit more complicated than a lot of other vehicles, like the Tacoma over there. But anyway, in the Tesla, there are 2 air filters. They're located on the right side of the center console area. We will be doing this, although not for a couple of years probably, maybe a year or so. But to do it, you just have to remove the kick plate panel right in front of your feet. That's to give you access to that area that you're going to also remove, which you do with just a pry tool and one other tool. More involved, of course, than most other vehicles. Typically, you can do those by hand. This is something you can do yourself, but if you're not comfortable, obviously, you could go to Tesla and have them do it for you. Next up, clean and lubricate brake calipers every year or 12,500 miles. 20,000 kilometers if you happen to live in a metric area. If in an area where roads are salted during the winter. I happen to not live in an area like that. If anything, for me, it would be more a matter of, I guess, pollen, maybe sand. If I was to be out at the beach or something with the car, I don't know why I would. So I think for me, you know, this 12,500 miles is probably something I wouldn't have to do necessarily at all. Unless, of course, you use the brakes frequently, you're not taking advantage of that one pedal driving motion. Next up, and this is probably the biggest thing, I think, and this is something that a lot of people have complained about. It says here, rotate tires every 6,250 miles or 10,000 kilometers, or if tread depth difference is, or if tread depth difference is 2/32 inches or 1.5 millimeters or greater, whichever comes first. Now, I mentioned this is one of those things that a lot of people have complained about with the Tesla, that they go through tires, they eat tires. Why? Because of all of the torque that the car has. And of course it has tons of torque, right? I mean, you lay on the accelerator and it goes. However, I think it really kind of depends on how you drive. You know, if you're one of those got to get to the next stoplight people and nail the accelerator every time you go, you're probably going to burn through tires quicker. If you turn and get on the throttle as you're turning to increase the rotation of the tire, you're probably going to go through tires a little more frequently. I think if you just drive sensibly and do the tire rotation every 6,250 miles like Tesla recommends, maybe stretch it to 6,500 miles, I mean, you know, give or take, you're probably going to be just fine. The other thing, there is one more that wasn't mentioned here, or I skipped it, and that is windshield washer fluid. You need to make sure you have that, obviously, to keep your windshield clean so you can see where you're going. You know, it's interesting to me. I had a home link device installed in my Tesla, which is actually pretty cool. It has geofencing and stuff on it, so you can actually just drive up to whatever you're trying to activate. The car will know where you're at, and it will send the signal and open whatever you're trying to open. I think it's fantastic. I use it all the time in that manner. But anyway, the tech came out to the house, which is pretty cool. Are you able to do that with other brands? No, you're not. You have to go to the shop, sit there and wait forever, instead of being in the comfort of your own home while the tech comes and does whatever it is you want to have done, right? So anyway, set up the appointment. It was seamless. The tech came on time and put this device in. But I noticed one of the things they check, or he checked, and it's funny because the car was brand new. I had just gotten it. Was the windshield washer fluid. I think he might have added a touch. And he went around and looked at all the tires to make sure that they were right. Now, speaking about tires, again, one of the big complaints has been the cost of tires as well as having to replace them on the Teslas. Tesla tire prices have come down. They're probably still a little bit higher than your standard tire, but nothing like what they used to be. I mean, you can get a tire for a Tesla now for about $150 to $200, something like that from what I've seen. Much better than it used to be, so you might get away with, let's say about $600 or so if you need to change the tires. And how frequently do you really need to do that? I wouldn't think a whole lot more often than you would on an ICE or hybrid vehicle, but again, it kind of depends upon how you drive. Anyway, those are the real maintenance items, I guess, that you have to worry about if you have a Tesla. Obviously, a lot fewer than if you have an ICE vehicle. There's no oil changes. You don't have to screw around with transmission fluid, although there's a big rumor out there that you do. Be careful what you pay attention to on the web, right? That's about it. Brake pads, don't have to do anything with those. I highly recommend you take advantage of the single pedal driving as much as you can. Of course, there are going to be instances where something might pop up that you're not expecting, or maybe you didn't allow quite enough time for that stop, where you have to use the brake pedal, and you should. Of course, with any system like this, you always have to make sure that you are safe, I guess. If you need to stop, don't depend on necessarily the regenerative feature of the Tesla brakes. Go ahead and hit the brake pedal. You'll be all right. It's not going to reduce the life of the brakes on the car by that much for that here and there situation that you might need it. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. A heck of a savings, or doesn't really matter to you? I'd be curious to know. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.